What is this place? Whoa, you okay? Your vitals look good. I guess we know now that falling doesn't hurt. That's some good news at least. There must be a way to get back up there. Oh, you what? That's sick! What's an old photograph doing here? Can you do something with it? Hang on, did you just shift reality? A teleporter!
Hello guys, this is gonna be a Viewfinder review. Actually, I just finished the game, and yeah, there's a lot to cover, of course. Where do I even begin? This game is insanely clever and the developers must have an IQ of 300. I'm gonna just do a short spoiler alert here. If you haven't played the game, this review will actually contain spoilers and like details and puzzles and mechanics, even for the end game, so please be careful. You should turn away now if you don't want spoilers for Viewfinder. The core mechanics are one of the coolest I've ever seen. They build upon this with surprisingly many additional mechanics and ideas. It gets very trippy and mind-blowing in the end. I really love trippy games like this one. It's absolutely mind-blowing, guys. I'm gonna try to explain the main mechanics of the game. Maybe you have seen like a clip or something before. It was announced actually pretty many years before the release of the demo. But basically the main mechanic is you have a camera and you can take photos of your surroundings and environment. And when you have taken a photo, you can place the photo in the environment, in the world, and this is like the main mechanic. This is where things get really crazy, guys. When you place the photo in the world, the 2D image gets converted to 3D. So the content of the photo gets it turns into 3D. The 2D photo turns into 3D, and you can basically walk into the photograph, right? And when you place the photo in the environment to turn it into 3D, you're basically replacing the background. You're replacing whatever was there before placing the photo, right? So basically you can slice the background, and whatever was there before placing of them will be removed, right? So you can really mess up stuff. You can really mess stuff up if you're not careful, right? The slicing of the background sometimes helps, since this makes it possible to slice holes through like walls or obstacles, right? Sometimes this is like the solution to a few puzzles that you need to slice the background. But yeah, as I said, you can also ruin things if you accidentally slice away things that you might need or similar.
Just as stunning as I remember it. Let's get our bearings and find where we left off.
There's a lot of mechanics where when I understood how they worked, I dropped my yaw several times. It's extremely intelligent design. The environment is very calm, beautiful, and relaxed. Yeah, the style is kind of the art style is kind of stylized, really. It's like a dreamy landscape, dreamy feeling. It feels like you're in a dream or something. Yeah, this plays more like The Witness rather than classical platforms like Portal. Story is a little bit hard to follow. Not super sure what it's about, but like the voice acting is good, and there's a cute cat that you can pet. No, but the story revolves around. I know at least that the story revolves around climate change and trying to solve climate change. Right? There's these scientists and stuff like that. I'm gonna talk maybe more about that later because I wanna focus on the puzzle elements and the game design stuff and things, right? So. Yeah, but the environment, the art style is very pleasing and nice to look at. There's ambient music in the background that doesn't disturb too much. Like it doesn't take your attention too much, right? So the game is like the levels are split up into chapters, different chapters, each with different like focus, I would say, different themes. Like there's actually a lot of new mechanics introduced all the time. Yeah, maybe there's even a little too much new coming all together because there was some mechanics that were barely reused. Actually, that's something that I was kind of confused and surprised about. Uh, like only used, like there's a few things that are only used basically in a very few amount of levels. A few mechanics that I really like.
House is in. No, what's that? That looks interesting. Let's check it out.
I must admit, I'm surprised you made it this far. It's been a while since someone's wandered around this place, and it's good to have you. Shall we continue onward? The train will take us to Haraya's station, a place where science and art meet nature.
Whoa, is that a tree? It's beautiful. I've never really seen a tree up close before. Imagine seeing something like this every day. That would be pretty amazing.
The final level was a timed level with several puzzles that combined everything, and that was nice. But the time you had in that one is extremely little, and it's very stressful. I found out that you can disable the timer, and I found out that actually by failing the level so many times that the game actually asked me if I wanted to disable the timer. That's how hard that one was. No, but that was stressful because like when I had figured out the puzzles and the timer ran out, I just had to redo the same things over and over again, right? And that was very frustrating because when I had solved the puzzle, why would I need to redo the puzzles, you know? I'm not learning anything new when I'm doing the puzzles for the second or third time, right? Yeah, it was easy to fuck this level up, honestly, because you had to take many photos at once to prepare for what's coming and save some photos. Like, you can take, when you take a photo, you can either take more photographs and have many in your hand. Just like you can hold many photographs at once and place whenever you like, or you can place a photo directly as you're taking the photograph, directly after you snap the picture. No, but in this level you had to basically take a lot of photographs before specific areas, and you have to basically have prepared photographs before, long before, so that was really tricky actually to yeah, figure out, I would say.
Batteries, the teleporters, that's all thanks to his handiwork. Though, he wouldn't accept the compliment directly. A birthday! That's wonderful. Gathering of friends. I love these little events. If my system memory is correct, Celion received quite a unique gift that day. Oh, you found it! A camera. Portable and with instant film to boot. A smart way to travel around here, and a powerful way to store data. I can't wait to see how you use this.
You also shouldn't take too many photos, because when you're stuck in later sections to the ending level, could definitely be better. Especially since if you used photograph in a specific way, you could make yourself stuck later. It's about the thing I was talking about, like slicing the background with a photograph. The only real frustrating thing is it was always hard to tell the depth of a placed photo, how deep the background would become, and where different stuff would end up in the 3D world after placing a photograph. Like, right? It's hard to tell how the depth will translate into 3D when placing the photograph, when turning 2D into 3D. This made it so that I had sometimes needed to reverse time just to place a photo perfectly. It was sometimes unnecessarily precise that you needed to place things. Oh, I didn't cover that. I'm sorry. Yeah. So if you fuck up or you want to change your mind about placing a photo, whatever you have been doing, you can reverse time. That's another mechanic. You can reverse time either to actually just to whatever point you would like, but the points in time where you snapped a photo or placed a photo, where you took a photo or placed a photo, are marked in the timeline, so you can just double tap to directly rewind to these points in time. This is basically like an undo action, right? If you fuck up, or if you want to do something else, if you change your mind, etc. So that's a really cool thing as well. Fits into the whole camera and theme as well, right? So most of the mechanics integrated with the core mechanical photographs very well, following the same consistent routes. In general, really cool game, and I was surprised by the amount of times I experienced jaw-dropping moments. Once again, the design is extremely clever and top tier. Challenging the very design, I'd say this is. I'm not saying this many times, guys. Honestly, so it's challenging the very design of the Witness and Mist, I'd say, even for real. From now on, I'm gonna do another spoiler alert actually, because now I'm gonna talk about the main, like, the different mechanics, specific puzzles, details, solutions, and other things. And this will ruin the game if you haven't played it, if you don't want spoilers. So I'm gonna just say it again. This is another spoiler alert. Okay, so the first mechanic that I want to talk about is duplicating things. Whenever you need more of something, you can just take a photo of it, place it in the sky, and when you place it in the sky, all the loose objects will actually react to gravity, right? When you convert the photo to 3D, loose objects will fall down to the ground. And now you have two things. A few levels took this mechanic even further. Sometimes the only way to reach the goal teleporter was to snap a photo of it and place it somewhere else. The original teleporter could simply not be reached normally. For example, the teleporter needs to be upright. It cannot be like sideways. For example, on a wall, for you to use it. And yeah, the teleporter is the goal of each level, basically. That's where you need to go. The original teleporter, yeah. Or sometimes when you needed a quadruple amount of something, when you only start with one. And how the hell can you solve this situation, right? No, but think about it, think about it. Pause the video and think about it for a moment, right? Pause the video and think about it. You can take a photo of that thing. That only thing you start with. Place the photo next to the original item. Then snap another photo with the two items placed. So it takes a photo of a photo, basically. You take a photo of one thing, place it next to the other thing. You take a photo of these two things, and now you have 4 of them. Alright? It's absolutely crazy, guys. It's so crazy. My brain cannot melt anymore. I was like, oh. The second mechanic I want to talk about is the teleportation effect that was on later levels. You can use a timed viewfinder. Okay, I'm gonna like explain how it's designed, basically. On a few levels there was a fixed camera placed on like a pillar, I guess. So basically a viewfinder, right? You can activate these things, and when you activate these things, there's a timer starting, and when the timer runs out, the thing will take a photograph. So you can use these viewfinders to take a photograph of yourself. Basically, you walk to the other side of the viewfinder before the time runs out, right? To take a photo of yourself. And then you can use this photograph of yourself to teleport to whatever it's placed. You will be teleported to the same distance as the distance between you and the camera as the photo was taken. You can teleport wherever you stand in the photograph, wherever you stood when the photo was taken. Very clever. Using this, you can get behind walls and fences that otherwise wasn't possible to get past, basically. Sometimes you need to take a photo where you're standing close to the viewfinder. Other times you need to be further away. It all depends on the distance you need to teleport or warp. Just like everything else in the game, you can take a photograph of viewfinders as well. You can take photographs of cameras, right? Placed in the world, that is. And when you take a photograph of viewfinders, and there were situations where you didn't have time to activate the viewfinder and then walk to be in front of the photo. To be in the photograph. And in these circumstances, you simply have to take a photograph of the viewfinder, then place the viewfinder somewhere else, closer, so you can get a photo of yourself within the time limit. Sometimes you basically couldn't use the original viewfinder camera to get a photo of yourself. The timer was simply too low. The amount of time on the timer was too short. You didn't have time to run around the camera. This is where you need to do this. Take a photo of the camera, the viewfinder camera, place that somewhere else. Now you can use the new viewfinder in the photograph to take a photo with that one. So take a photo with a viewfinder in a photograph.
It'll only be painful.
It's also very clever because you cannot take a photo of yourself with your own camera. You simply can't just rotate the camera and take a selfie, right? You just simply can't. You need to use these fixed camera, viewfinder cameras in the world, in the levels. It is this very detail that some viewfinders are timed that makes it possible to be part of a photo. You activate it, move in front of it, and wait as the timer runs down, and the photo shoot begins. Without the timer functionality, how would you have time to run around and get a photo of yourself? So there was one level where this mechanic was introduced, and I actually pretty quickly understood what to do, because the viewfinder was on one side, there was a timer going down, and then there was like a U-shaped pathway, so you could just walk to the right and then front and back to the left, but there with a gap in between. And I quickly understood what to do actually because of the timer, right?
Nice work.
The timer was
Looks like
pretty
we're back
long,
online.
so
Ready when you are.
I was basically thinking, why is the timer being that long? Why? What does that really mean? And I was thinking, maybe that means I need to walk to the other side and to get to be part of the photograph. And that was the goal. So very clever design, absolutely. Another really cool thing was the blue objects. There was objects that were blue. Everything that's blue can not simply be part of photographs. All blue things could not be captured in photos. This was a very clever way to create another layer of challenges. Basically, only red things could be captured in photos. There were some really surprising uses for this. For example, you could take a photo of red things through a blue wall, and since blue things doesn't get captured in photos, the wall will not be included in the photo.
True.
And you will only see the red things on the other side in the photo. Which means you can pass the wall, because the wall doesn't exist when you place the photo, right? I hope you're following this. It's kind of hard to explain with words, because you have to see things, right? I'm gonna try to show you this video. Many times when there were very small puzzles or sections, you have extremely limited options, and it looks to be impossible from the start. When you find out the clever solutions like the one I just described. And that's really a proof of well-designed puzzle. When you find the solution, it should feel very clear and obvious, and you get a feeling of being stupid. Almost, right? Like, of course, that's how you do it. Yeah, basically, as I said, the most original objects are red. Sometimes you need to power the teleporter using batteries, and like I said before, this is one of the things you could. Sometimes when you needed more batteries and only had one, you can just do what I told earlier. You can basically just take a photo of that battery and then place it somewhere, and now you have two batteries. Yeah, but these, like I said, this thing became much harder when they introduced blue objects. They had blue teleporters and batteries, for example, and you just couldn't use, like, you can't, if you need more batteries, you can just simply take a photo of the blue battery, because once again, blue objects will not get captured actually in the photo. That's the real challenge here in later levels. And the next mechanic I want to talk about is basically they have radios instead of switch blocks, instead of blocks and pressure plates. That's what's really interesting. I have never seen this before. They have basically radios, and they have like I guess audio sound sensors. You need to place these radios that are playing music close to the sound sensors. And when you do this, they activate something. So the game basically uses sound waves and sensors rather than the classical block and pressure plates. Very unexpected. Works well, even though sound is not an obvious part of the photography core mechanic. Because maybe it doesn't tie in all so well with that thing, but it's not a big problem. It works very well, I think. Just like other things, you can take photos of radios to get more of them. Some puzzles didn't have radios, but rather static speakers that were activated using switches or levers. Yeah, there's like, I guess there's something that reminds about pressure plates. There's a switch where the player needs to stand on to activate, but only the player can activate these things. And this is a time thing. When the player leaves that button, a timer goes off, having something being activated in a limited amount of time, I guess. It was a bit hard to figure out at first, but there were puzzles where the sound sensors that activated something were really far away from each other. It was hard to figure out how to transfer the sound from the faraway speaker all the way over there. Some sections had a speaker and a sensor with one cable. But like everything else, focus can duplicate things, and in these very examples, you couldn't simply put the photograph of the speaker close to the sensor, since only the original was activated using a lever. In order to transfer the sound all the way a long way, you needed to build chains with the sensors and speakers, taking many photos and placing them in long lines, where the speaker would then transfer to the next sensor and so on. So basically, you cannot take a photo of a speaker or a radio and put it next to. Sometimes you needed to build a chain for it to work. With the speaker, then would transfer to the next sensor and so on until it reached the final sensor that activated, for example. The teleporter go. A few puzzles included switches that the player needs to stand on to activate a timer connected to something. A few times the time was too short to make it. Like I said, the timed switches where the player stands on, right? Where you have a time limit as you leave the. But in these situations, you need to take a photo of the entire section with the switch and the sensor, and place them closer to wherever it activated to make it time. For example, the thing you stand on, the player switch, it can activate like a speaker that spreads sound a limited amount of time, but the amount of time is too low. Then you need to take a photo of both the switch and the speaker, place this entire section, this photograph of these two things, closer to like the teleporter or whatever. Because this is the only thing that was the problem, like reaching the teleporter when you had little time from these switches. And now to my absolute top favorite thing, the style changing gates. I want to try to explain these, but they are pretty hard to explain. This one is insanely trippy, and I'm sad that I didn't use these one more levels. They were only part of a few levels, surprisingly enough, actually. There were gates that whenever entered changed like the style of the world. Like there's not only photographs in this game. You can also use pictures, drawings, and sketches and place them in the world. And whenever you do this, the world or the environment that the photo creates will be in that style, very style. Like if it's a drawing, it's gonna be a painted environment, etc. So these gates were basically changing the style whenever entering them. The different styles could, just like a picture, be realistic, have different color tints, be hand-drawn,
I hope your
pixelated,
experience has been
negative,
pleasant so
inverted,
far.
etc.
To me, it's been...
Before you enter the gate, you can already see which effect they will apply when entering. You can see the world different through the frame. So when entering the gate, you can change the world to whatever effect or style that the gate had. This was very confusing and trippy the first time around, since I didn't understand what happened when you went back through the same gate again. But it turns out that whatever effect that you currently have will be left behind and exchanged for the new one. So let's say I first enter a red gate to change the world to red. Then if I enter a blue gate, the world changes to blue. But what happens with the gate after having passed it? If I enter the blue gate after the red, the blue gate will now get the previous effect, that is red. Which means that if I go back through the same gate again, I will get the previous effect. I will get blue, the blue world again. If I go back through the blue gate again, I'll get back to the red effect. I think they could have expanded on this mechanic very much, and I'm sad it wasn't used very much at all. However, what point did this game really fill? Why do you want to change the style of the world? Well, this is... I'm coming to this part now. It turns out there's these force fields or fences that blocks your passage. These fences require you to be in a specific world or dimension or style. You can only pass red gates in a red world or a red dimension, red state, whatever you want to call it. You can only pass a sketched fence or force field in a state or a style of a sketch world. If you enter a sketch gate, you can pass the sketched force field, etc. Is there? Basically, you need to be in the style or the world that the force field is. The hard part was when you needed to pass several gates with different styles after one another. You had to go through many different gates to change the style effect many times. It was confusing since you needed to go through the gates in the correct order, so that the previous effect was left off in the correct place. If you need to be blue first, then red, you can't go through the red door in the sketched world. This would ruin things, as when you go back through a door, you always get the last effect you had just before it was changed. These fences was not only used as obstacles, on some levels you needed it to block your way, as it worked as a bridge. Another thing that I really liked was 3D things turning 2D. I was looking up this at Google actually, and this is a thing that is in other games as well. You know, it's called I think anamorphosis. It's basically an optical illusion where something that looks 3D is in fact just a 2D projected picture, like on a wall or something, but from certain angles it looks 3D, and you're a fool here. So this is in Viewfinder. Sometimes you'll walk towards something only to find out that the thing weren't in fact 3D, but rather a 2D picture. This was extremely unexpected. On one level I walked towards the staircase, only to find out that the staircase was a 2D picture painted on two walls in a corner, and not in fact a staircase. So this was just a picture of a staircase folded into a corner, so I could not use it. And sometimes areas you leave will also turn 2D when you try to go back, and it really makes you dizzy, because you walk towards it and suddenly the wall comes towards you much faster, because it's in fact a 2D picture, so the perspective gets all messed up. And this is actually quite realistic. This is what will happen if you walk towards something that looks 3D but it's 2D, right? It will look like the things in the background comes towards you much faster than it should. And this is because there is no actual depth to it, right? This has been my Viewfinder review. I really like the game. It's quite hard to rate like on a point scale, so I'm not gonna do that actually, but it's a really good game actually. Tons of mechanics. It was maybe a little bit short. I finished it in around maybe 10 hours, but yeah, and maybe sometimes like the difficulty or the challenges of the levels weren't like that super high maybe, but yeah, I really like the game. It's very unique. I definitely recommend it. Especially if you like stylized puzzle platformers that are maybe not that similar to Portal, because this is actually not similar to Portal at all, honestly. That is a plus in my book, honestly. So yeah, I hope you liked the review, and I hope you play the game. Thank you so much for listening and watching.
Okay, I do have a first build. I can't say that I'm happy with how it's turned out, but it is a start. That counts for something. Okay, I'll run the test just to have the data. After that's done, we'll leave this workspace behind and